So, I want to start by making you all a question. Do you like Christmas movies? Do you enjoy Christmas movies? Well, the most common answer, as you can see, is yeah, of course. And guess what? Me too. But why? One of the most successful movie genres of all time are Christmas movies because of the nostalgic, cold, and hopeful environment that gets to hook up every audience, from seniors to little kids. But still the question, why? One of the most reasonable arguments is how Christmas movies are a universal concept that every human being has get through in his life and gets to relate to it, except from Jack Skellington, the skeletal pumpkin king in the film The Nightmare Before Christmas, because in his reality, the most hopeful thing is related to a dark and mysterious scene in the land of Halloween, just like a regular university environment. But what is the importance of this Halloween Christmas hybrid movie? It all goes down to the plot. The plot has an analogy of Plato's myth of the cave and also is developed while our protagonist tries to get over an existential crisis based on the myth as well. So, to sum up the previously mentioned myth, Plato's myth of the cave talks about a group of people that have lived inside a cave their whole lives, only watching shadows from figures that are moved by people and are lighted by a campfire. This whole thing changes when one of the members of the tribe decides to get out of the cave, discovering the real world, the one that is not built by misshapen shadows. When he goes down again to the cave to illustrate the other colleagues about what he has saw, it turns out to be impossible because those concepts have no room inside the cave. As well, at the same time, he starts to have an existential crisis based on what he considers the true and the whole world resulted to be a minimum distorted part of it. But it is important to start relating the myth to the movie. Let's consider Halloween Town as the cave. Halloween Town members have always lived behind defined concepts based on Halloween and horror. And yes, the moment Jack gets out of the woods and enters Christmas Village is the exact same moment as when the man gets out of the cave. Both characters have an excess of feelings going from fear to joy because of the new experiences they are having out there. Jack decides to follow the caveman's steps and return to its original home and try to explain what he has saw in the outside world. But both characters failed on trying to explain something that has no definition, no clear definition in their world. So here's the question. How can you describe the sun to someone who has never seen it? How can you describe Christmas to someone whose happiness comes from scaring and causing pain? And taking an example for a well-known philosopher, Nietzsche, from Language and Truth. How can you describe a single leaf from a tree if every single one of them is different and every perspective of reality is different? It is impossible. It turns out to be useless trying to communicate something to someone because what will end up happening is a misinterpretation of the original message. This doesn't go too far from our daily lives. It is important that at the moment of communicating a message, take into account the different experiences that people have based on their senses. And just as René Descartes said, human senses are an uncertain foundation of knowledge. I mean, like, for my presentation and my clothes, you might have assumed that I would talk about Christmas, but that is not the case. That is not the reality. You have been just... So, frustration and misinterpretations will always come because we're humans. It is completely normal to feel that you have done something wrong. So was the man in the cave in Plato's myth, so was Jack in Nightmare Before Christmas, or just like a senior in high school year. It's completely part of our lives. Part of being a good communicator is taking into account these tips for giving a good message, and even though it's gonna change, it will still be good and important. So, my recommendation is to follow Jack's steps for avoiding existential crisis based on not knowing how to communicate an idea, because frustration tends to come when you discover the world is bigger than your own world. Thank you.